Hi, I'm Laura Rolfe, host of Powered by Franchising and CEO of Mint Franchise Consultants. Today, my guest is JT Thiessen of Rolling Suds. He is the Chief Development Officer with a wealth of franchise experience. JT, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's been terrific to watch the phenomenal growth of Rolling Suds and just learn a little bit more about where your grassroots came from just a few short years ago to where you are today. I heard you're about ready to cross a big milestone with Rolling Suds this week. 300?
We are. Yeah, we're going to close our 300th franchise. We'll invite to the family this week, or 300 franchise territories, which is under 2 years, which is pretty remarkable growth. So we're really excited about that.
Yes, well, less than 1% of franchises ever achieve 100 locations, so 300 in 2 years, terrific. Um,
Yeah.
so you have an extensive background in franchising. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your background and what led you to Rolling Suds?
Sure. So, yeah, I've been doing this for 32 years, believe it or not. And I fell into it completely by accident and fell in love with it. I was on my way to law school and got introduced to an opportunity to start franchising with a little company that no one had ever heard of at the time called Remax, and decided to just take a quick stop off on my way to my secondary education and never got there. I loved the franchise opportunity and the ability to help people make these big changes in their lives by finding entrepreneurship through franchising. So I was in the real estate side of franchising with Remax and Prudential for the first 10 years of my career. And then the last 21 years, I've been fortunate to be part of a team that's built 11 different service brands, with Rolling Suds being the latest one. So it's been something I've just loved every minute of as I've gone. And my favorite part, Laura, is to get to go to conventions and conferences and get hugs and handshakes from people that come up and say, how much we've changed their lives as a result of it. And for me, that's the ultimate reason why we do what we do.
Yes, well, helping aspiring entrepreneurs get into business for themselves and create a path towards creating wealth for themselves and for their family. It's really quite a joy. So what was it about Rolling Suds and the vision, the strategy, the growth opportunities that really attracted you to join this franchise group?
Yeah, I love the fact that we were first to market. There really is no other national player around commercial and residential power washing. And I've been part of other brands where we were also first to the market. And I just love the opportunity to go out and create that name brand and build the number one entity out there as far as, in this case, power washing. And the culture of the organization was great. We attracted some fantastic early franchisees into the system that I really connected with, and we've got a great leadership team as well. And so it really checked a lot of the boxes for me in terms of what we could build and honestly how quickly I thought we could build it as well, which is something that I wanted to be a part of. At my age, I can't take 20 years to build anything anymore. So yeah, I was just excited about all those things for sure.
Well, you're definitely a natural builder, starting with Remax, that little known franchise 32 years ago, to the powerhouse it is today, and now Rolling Suds, that started out really as a very family oriented business and still is a family oriented business, but big growth opportunities. And now you're the number one power washing franchise in the country. What is the power behind Rolling Suds, JT?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I feel like it really does start with the family that you talked about, the Wendling family, Brian Sr. and Brian Jr. They developed this company and started this company 32 years ago in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Really started as a side hustle and has grown into, a very large multi-million-dollar business that they're doing locally, both commercially and residentially. And it really took the next leap when his sons, Brian Jr. and Luke, got involved with him. But even though we're a 2-year franchise system, meaning we're still relatively young, we're learning things every day, we have the ability to leverage 32 years of experience. And I have to tell you, Laura, I didn't think there was much to power washing. I thought it was really just, turn the machine on and point the gun and off you go. And there's a lot of nuances about it, a lot of different chemicals and solutions and applications and methodology that you use depending on what it is that you're trying to clean and when and why. And it's a beautiful thing that our franchisees can come in and just leverage years and years and years of experience to get going. So I think that's probably the number one thing that I think is that we bring to the table, is this immense amount of knowledge. And then I think the second thing is that they've really developed this truck that we use. It's a 12-foot box truck. It carries 950 gallons of water and several hundred gallons of other chemicals, and two, sometimes three pumps. And what that allows us to do is do jobs that simply other people can't do. We can get them done faster, more efficiently, safer. And so it's kind of like bringing a machine gun to a knife fight in a lot of ways, because most of our competition is very fragmented. It's very mom and pop. It's a guy with a truck or a guy with a trailer. And so when we roll up with this team of 2 or 3 people and a large box truck and the ability to do these kinds of large jobs, it really sets us apart dramatically from anyone else that's out there.
Well, I had the opportunity to come to Nashville and see the box truck and point the power washer at the building and spray off a building. But yes, you're right. The proprietary knowledge in the box truck, and it's very impressive. You're a rolling billboard going down the street, and then going and witnessing a 2-story, 2,800 square foot house be power washed in under 23 minutes. Wow. So I think you initially started as more of a focus on the residential home power washing, but really in the last 12 months have expanded to create a balance between the residential and commercial. Tell us what that evolution has looked like, and some of the big jobs that some of your franchisees have landed in the last 12 months.
Yeah, so our affiliate location in Philadelphia generally does about 55 to 45% commercial to residential. So they were always doing a little bit more commercial than residential, but it was more of an even balance. Right now, our new numbers came out where our franchisees are doing 80% commercial, 20% residential. And I think a lot of it is we have so many really sharp, connected franchisees that have come into our system that are uncovering all kinds of different opportunities that honestly, the Philadelphia location probably just weren't turning over that many stones to find new business, because they had a lot of, pardon the pun, rinse and repeat business over the years. And so we've got these collective super sharp franchisees that are going out and working on opening doors with government agencies and HOAs and getting national and commercial accounts that are sometimes very, very large, and allows them to focus on doing bigger ticket, sort of more exciting. The residential is still important. It's important for a cash flow standpoint. But I think we're becoming more and more of a commercial power washing business than anything else. We had the opportunity to do some really big jobs this year, but probably the one we enjoyed the most was washing the roof of the Superdome ahead of the Super Bowl this year. The NFL gave the city of New Orleans some money to clean things up. I don't know that the NFL has enough money to clean everything up in New Orleans, but we were able to do City Hall. But then we also got on the roof and cleaned it took weeks, but we cleaned years and years of grit off of the roof of that dome so that it looked pearly white when the cameras are going over it in the Super Bowl. So that was a lot of fun.
Yes, very, very shiny building. And some of the other big commercial projects I've heard about are large chains of gas stations, of convenience stores, of quick service restaurants. Yes.
Stores, shopping malls. Yeah, we rolled out our national account program in January, and we've already been able to help our franchisees secure a large number of jobs for people that are responsible for making decisions for a lot of buildings, whether it's a chicken franchise restaurant or a taco franchise restaurant or people that are responsible for shopping malls across the country. And so we've been helping them secure a lot of those businesses as well. We actually closed the largest job in the company's history this year, which is a 4-year contract, just under 7 figures, to clean overpasses for a city in Florida, where we literally go in and dedicate 2 trucks year round to cleaning these overpasses. I don't know why they need them so clean, but apparently they do. And so that's been a lot of fun to see those kind of jobs hit the books as well.
Well, very cool. And apartment complexes. I mean, when I first heard of Rolling Suds a couple of years ago, it's amazing how much I see the dirt and grime on buildings now, particularly on our stucco buildings in Phoenix. They're brown, and then I see a truck go by and spray it, and then it's shiny white again. So, yeah, clearing away that grime is good.
Yeah, we also have a drone program too, which is really cool and allows us to do some hard to reach buildings like water towers that you see along the freeway that are all covered in grime and soot and that sort of thing. And we can run drones up and attach hoses to those and clean those properties too, which is a really so it's a crowd favorite. They love watching those things go, but it's so amazing what you can do with technology these days.
Yeah, well, I want to drive the drone. Do you need special licensing to
Yeah,
to
don't
operate the
drive the
drone?
drones. They bring in someone to
Operate it.
drive the drones. These are great, big, massive drones. You actually, in some cases, you have to get FAA clearance to even fly these things. So it's a pretty involved opportunity when we use those.
So many franchisees, when you first start out, you mentioned cash flow. So on the residential jobs is important to getting that cash flow positivity. At what point do you see franchisees really transitioning and focusing more on the commercial opportunities?
I think right now what we're seeing is that they're starting off really heavy in both. Almost to a place where we have to remind them that they need to do the residential business because the commercial is just a little bit more. I don't know. It's more interesting. It's more fun. It's more challenging in terms of figuring it all out. But with commercial jobs, sometimes you do a bid and they don't want the work done for 60 days, and then you get paid 30 days after that for accounts receivable, and so it can be a little taxing on cash flow. And that's where the franchisees need to go out and really focus on, hey, what can we do in 30 minutes? We can knock an entire street off in one day and put significant dollars right against cash flow that same day. So we try to encourage them to really focus on residential right out of the gate, but we're also seeing them come on with a lot of our different commercial vendors very early on in the process too. So it's not really a transition. We're seeing they're really starting with a foot in both buckets, if you will.
Well, and Rolling Suds has a couple of referral programs where you're able to get business to those franchisees quickly so they can start getting those jobs on day one. What are some of the benefits and resources that Rolling Suds provides franchisees?
Yeah, I think certainly, helping with different vendors that provide the commercial leads. We have some. We actually just brought on another vendor recently that does outbound cold calling for residential leads, so that we're hitting both of those markets, and we're actually doing that before they even graduate from the final week of training, which is the hands-on training, with the attempt to try to get appointments on their calendar for when they get back from training. So now they've got a crew of 2 people, they've got a truck, they've got a warehouse, they've already got appointments, and they're off and running. And that's really the idea, is to limit the amount of downtime when you get back from training as your business is building up, so that they can go out and accomplish those, start getting some cash flow in right out of the gate.
Well, you have a lot of powerhouse franchisees. I've met a handful of them. And so, what are some of the qualities that make a good Rolling Suds franchisee and lead to their success?
Yeah, it's a great point. We do have some fantastic franchisees, and really what we're looking for are empire builders, people that don't want to be on the truck. They want to be building and scaling a large power washing business. We certainly teach them how to do the business just so they know everything themselves. But if you're on the truck more than one day a month because someone called in sick, that's too many days in our opinion. So a lot of our franchisees have either extensive past business experience, they've owned other franchises, they've owned other businesses, or they've had really significant corporate experience and leading teams and paying attention to P&Ls, that sort of thing as well. And so ideally what we're looking for are people that want to build and scale a large business. Like I mentioned, they want to hire teams, they want to grow quickly. I think the number one thing that I look for is sales ability, networking, being able to be involved in the community. On the commercial side of our business, a lot of it is making connections with decision makers and being able to follow up and prove yourself and ask for future business, that sort of thing. And so it's not really a business that gets driven from behind a desk. It really is people that are comfortable being out in the community, working with these decision makers, like we mentioned, and checking in on their guys on a job, that sort of thing. So it takes grit, it takes some networking, it takes follow up, and And I think sales skills, making sure that they understand what the large differences are between Rolling Suds and everybody else that's out there power washing right now.
Well, and you're also looking for people who are going to be all in. You need to be an owner operator involved in your business full time, correct?
100%. Yeah, listen, building a business is a hard thing. I don't care what franchise you pick. I've been doing this long enough to know that it's hard. It's harder in the first couple of years. It's easier than trying to do it on your own, in my opinion, if you're aligned with a good franchise, obviously. But it still takes a lot of hard work to get something going. That's why they call it building a business, is because that first year is going to be a lot of no's to go along with some yeses, and it takes a lot of grit. And if you get somebody that's trying to run this while keeping a full-time job and just hiring a general manager, we just don't feel like that works. We feel like you need to be in the community, owning your business, having that conversation. Because what happens if your general manager just shows up one day and says, I quit, I'm going to go do something else, and you're working full-time as an accountant? How are you going to get that business continuing on without that person in place? So certainly we want them to be all in at the beginning. And then the idea is that they can start to transition themselves out as the business scales, and they can hire that general manager to run the crews and sort of work on the business, not in it at that point. But we do want people that are all in right out of the gate.
Well, there's so many different franchise opportunities out there. Last count of around 4,000. What is so appealing about Rolling Suds that has led to you having 300 territories as of this week?
People just really like power washing, right? But it's very satisfying, I will tell you. And one of the things I love about this business is that in today's day of social media, TikTok, Facebook, all these things, what we do is a dramatic before and after, which everyone loves, right? Like if you see it all the time, people saying, here's what I look like before I bought my Peloton, and here's what I look like after 5 months of riding it every day, and everyone applauds, and it's very exciting. And I think that's a lot of what we do as well, is, hey, here's something that looked awful, and here's what we did when we were done with it, and look how much nicer it looks. But I don't think that's the real reason, obviously, why people buy this business. I think what they're looking to do is they want to be first to market. They want to see something with scale. They want something that's a boring business. I think there's a lot of focus right now on boring businesses, meaning AI isn't going to figure out how to do it. Amazon isn't going to be dropping drones in out of the sky to power wash buildings. This needs to be hands-on. It needs to be done. And it's not a fad. Things are always going to get dirty. And until something I can't foresee comes along, it's going to be cleaned by doing power washing. And so it's got a lot of staying power, which I think is really important as people look to build a large business that maybe someday they want to hand down to their kids or something along those lines. So I think being first to market and having a business that's a necessity, where it's really right now just full of a lot of mom and pops and people that don't really act very professionally in a lot of ways in terms of what we do. And so bringing a whole level of professionalism to this industry is something else that we're very, very focused on.
Well, and the scalability, the fact that you can wash a home in under 23 minutes means you can wash a lot of homes in a day, or you can wash an entire apartment complex over the course of a week or two. So you can do those bigger jobs, and you can do a lot more of them with Rolling Suds than you can with a mom and pop rolling truck and trailer, I think too.
100%.
And you don't need skilled labor to do the power washing. So it's easier, I think, to hire. Some of the franchisees that I've talked to say it's pretty easy to hire non-skilled labor to do the power washing because, to your point, it's fun to hold a power pressure washer and wash a building.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can teach somebody how to do it in a day or two. And so even if, you have a situation where someone needs to leave your team, you can hire somebody else and have them on the truck and off and going in 24 hours. So that's a big key to what we do. And typically what we do isn't licensed either. You don't need any kind of specialized training or contractor's license or anything like that to do this, which is another big separator in the home services industry.
Well, I think our listeners love hearing stories of successful franchisees and kind of their background, where they came from, and how they've scaled their business. Can you share an example or two of a Rolling Suds franchisee's growth?
Sure. Yeah, we've got a lot of folks. It's hard to pick just one, but you know, we've got some people with varied backgrounds. Some of them have been in business before, like I mentioned. I'm thinking about one guy in particular that was one of our early franchisees, and he's been a big reason why we've been able to continue to grow. Every single week, we keep putting all this knowledge back into the system. And so when you think about it, when we started this 2 years ago, we were the only source of information that the franchisees had to leverage. And now we have 95 franchisees that are all continuing to share and bubbling up this information so that everybody can move faster and quicker and avoid mistakes and things along those lines that maybe weren't so much in the early days. But the franchisee I'm thinking about in particular has just always been about growth. He's reinvesting in additional territories. He's scaling up into a number of trucks very quickly. He's gotten into the government. Just finished doing a Department of Defense building, which is going to open doors for him to do more things. And just understands that it's hard work, that it's gritty, that he needs to be out there every day, connecting with people and working with his guys and elevating and having empathy for his teams as well. Because if you've never worked with a blue collar worker before, that can be a bit of a change too. If you've been all, in a boardroom with white collar folks your whole time, you need to learn how to have some empathy because they've got some things going on sometimes that you're not aware of. And so he's good at all those things and really is scaling up his business dramatically, and it's exciting to see.
Well, very cool. It's always nice to see the franchisees, particularly the early adopters from 2 years ago, to see where they are today and setting that example. So as part of the discovery process, for any of our listeners who haven't looked at franchising before, you have the opportunity to speak with franchisees who have built their business. What are some of the things that franchisees might hear doing validation calls or being part of the listening to validation recordings with Rolling Suds, JT?
Yeah, that's a good question. I hope they'll hear that it's hard. And that may sound funny to say, but just because you're buying a franchise doesn't make it easy. It makes it easier, but still building that business is a hard thing. And especially if you're used to a corporate paycheck and everything else, to go out on your own and take this leap of faith and follow a system and you'll have challenges that will come up just like you do at work, but at work, there's someone else's problems and now they're yours. But it's also extremely fulfilling because solving those problems feels so much better when it's your problem. And having the big wins and the big success feels so much better because they're your wins and your success. And I think I hope what you'll hear is, hey, it's hard, but corporate has my back. They've got a great support team, everything from business coaches to P&L review to marketing that will help me continue to grow and scale my business quickly. They come out into the field and meet with us and meet with our guys and go on jobs and help us secure bids because they care about my success. I think that you'll find that what they're saying is the competition's pretty weak. And they get, if our franchisees ever lose a bid, they get kind of ticked off because they can't believe that, it must have been somebody that knew somebody, because it certainly wasn't because they're a better business than we are. But I think you'll hear a lot of excitement as we continue to grow. We're still a newer franchise system and we're breaking things every day, but that's important. Like we're breaking, I think we're going on to our third CRM. And it's just because the other ones, couldn't keep up with the growth and our needs for them. And so we are quick to turn the ship and get going in the direction that we need to. And we listen to our franchisees in terms of their feedback and we've got a franchise advisory council, and we don't do anything without running those things by them first too, to make sure that we have the voice of the network constantly in our head as we go about making decisions on the corporate level.
So how does Rolling Suds continue to pivot 2 years into franchising through marketing? We've heard about your CRM and technology, but what are some of the other areas of pivot to really enhance the support of your franchisees?
Yeah, I think it's even our business coaches that we've brought on, if you think about, like, when they brought on, most of them didn't have much experience in doing this, and now they have years of experience in doing this, and so our business coaching's gotten better. Our model hasn't changed a whole lot since we started, but we are making small adjustments here and there in terms of marketing. We brought on an amazing marketing executive in Maddie Zook, who, in my opinion, is one of the best in home service marketing. And she's really taken what was a pretty generic marketing plan that we were working with probably a year ago to something that's laser focused on what the franchisees need to be doing, where they need to be deploying their funds. and also marking KPIs on a monthly basis to make sure they're getting the right return on their investment. So we constantly are evolving what we're doing, but there's subtle changes as we continue to grow and become a little bit more rooted in the model as we are heading into second year.
Very cool. So, what are you most excited about with the future of Rolling Suds, and what the future looks like over the course of the next 12 months to a couple of years?
For me, I love to build brands as we've talked about, and for me, it's someday I'll be at a random cocktail party and I'll tell people that I'm helping to build Rolling Suds, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've used them before, and they're great." And I saw their truck just the other day, and can you give me their number? And because we've built that name recognition and the reputation that goes along with it, and for me, that's always super satisfying. And then just to get stories from franchisees again that where I've seen life changes be able to happen because of the business that they've aligned themselves with us, and they've been able to grow and continue to uplift their staff and everything else that goes along with it. So for me, that's a lot of it. I really think the national account program is going to be something that when we look back on years down the road is going to be a big difference maker for us, because we will have this national branding, and so that we can go into someone that's got 100, 1,000, 2,000 restaurants or stores or gas stations, and we can get these contracts on a national basis so that our franchisees are getting business in their local market to be able to go out and do this work on a regular basis. And I think that's going to be the big thing that will be a game changer for us. It's not there yet. We're doing some of it now, but we're still literally 3 months into that program. And as we begin to continue to fill out the map and have representation in every city and every state, that's where we can really do some big things in that arena, in my opinion.
Are there some key focus areas that you're looking at to get some new franchisees, JT?
In terms of
A territory. What are some of the
oh,
territories that you're focused on to fulfill those national contracts that you're working on securing?
yeah, it's kind of all over the place. There certainly are some states where we scratch our heads and say, I can't believe we don't have anyone in Minnesota or Michigan or Wisconsin yet. We've got a lot of opportunities in New York, the East Coast of Florida, Albuquerque, Los Angeles, San Francisco are huge markets that are still open for us. So there's a long list still, even though we've grown, as we mentioned, pretty rapidly. There's still hundreds and hundreds of really great markets that we're not in yet that we need to focus on.
Well, and many of your franchisees are multi-territory owners. So building a big territory is part of that empire builder mentality. It sounds like the ratio is an average of 3 territories per franchisee.
Roughly, yes.
Terrific.
Everybody starts with two,
Hmm.
because again, we don't want you to start with one and then someone buys everything around you and you're really limited in your ability to grow and scale. But most franchisees have grown beyond that second territory and have added, 3, 4 as they continue to grow the business.
So with 32 years of experience in franchising, you have seen it and done a lot of things. So for our listeners who may not have looked at franchising before, what advice might you give them if they're new to exploring franchise opportunities?
Jump in, the water's warm. It's an exciting opportunity. It- you know, it, I even got my own family in franchising. My mother, my brother, my sister, my nephew all became franchisees of mine at one point or another. And that was kind of a scary thing to do, just because if it didn't go well, I might never get to go home for Thanksgiving again or get dinner rolls tossed at me or something like that. But I'm proud to say that they ended up doing very, very well for themselves. And our biggest challenge is just not talking shop the whole time we're at the Thanksgiving dinner table. But I think you really have to ask yourself, are you willing to make the sacrifices, and are you willing to follow the system that it takes to make this work? Because it's not for everybody. If it was for everybody, no one would work for anybody. Everybody would work for themselves, right? And it's not a good or bad thing, but really understanding what the model works, really talking to franchisees that are being successful to find out what are they doing to be successful. And if you don't feel like you can do the things that they're doing, then probably shouldn't be doing it, right? But it's really learning about the business, doing a lot of validation, and then asking some of the hard questions to yourself is like, listen, am I willing to do this? Am I going to freak out if I'm at month 3 and I haven't made any profit yet, well, that's pretty normal in building a business. And so it's really about that grit and making sure that you're dedicated and you're not just doing it because it sounds really cool to say, yeah, I own a business. You're doing it because you truly believe in it. You believe in yourself. You're willing to put that that bet on yourself, is just really what you're doing. And if you do, aligning yourself with the right system, it's such a beautiful thing. I've seen it happen so many times.
Well, and I think the runway to profitability and business launch is much shorter in franchising than it is if you were to do something on your own. And I'm talking with a lot more folks these days who are either tired of their 9 to 5 job, tired of making money for a big corporation, or we're seeing a lot of rifts in employees looking to make a shift, and rather than going to work for somebody else, looking at business ownership. But you do have to know how to work hard to be an entrepreneur and a business owner, whether it's franchised or independent.
Right. I think a lot of people today, they're working longer than they ever have before for corporate jobs that aren't safe. Like this, there used to be, well, I've got this really safe plush job that I could stay at for 20 years and get a gold watch and a pension at the end. And I'm not willing to risk, our 1 year family vacation to go do this. And today, I have to tell you, people are working longer hours than they ever have before for corporations, getting, in a lot of cases, a lot less credit and respect in terms of the way that they're treated. And there's no safety. You literally, private equity can come in and buy the company and change everything up the next day, and you'll find yourself looking for a new job. And so this allows you to really control your own future, your own destiny, your own calendar. And there's pluses and minuses to that. Sometimes that calendar is 7 in the morning till 10 at night getting things done because you just have to get them done. But at least it's your time that you're building for yourself versus building something for somebody else. And to see, I could tell stories for hours if you had them about success stories along those lines.
Well, and you can also build an asset that once you're no longer, like, let's say you want to retire or you don't want to pass it down to your family, or your family doesn't want to be involved, you have a saleable asset when you create that exit strategy and want to leave the franchise system. So that's, I think, another positive outcome to owning a
Yeah,
business.
you're building an asset, and then you have something to sell when it's done. And we help people that for whatever reason their time in life has changed, and that they need to transition out of the business. We help them find a buyer and hopefully profit substantially on the sale of their business wherever they are in their business cycle. But that's the whole idea behind this thing, right? You hand it down to your kids, or you sell it to somebody else that wants to pick up where you left off.
So, JT, how has the power of franchising changed your life?
um, it's been a lot of fun to be a part of an emerging brand again. The company I was with last, I was with for 20 years, and I was there when it was an emerging brand. And when 20 years go by, and you look at it and say, okay, there's, it's not as fast moving anymore. It's more like moving a battleship than a speedboat. And I love the fact that here at Rolling Suds, we're getting up every day and thinking up an idea in the shower and implementing it in the afternoon. And really, it's all about the people. It's all about getting to meet some fantastic franchisees and hearing about their early successes. And when we have so many people that we've had come back and say, I want to double down on my number of territories because of how well this thing is going. I think at the end of the day, that's the ultimate validation in terms of what we do. But, for me, it's all about the people and helping people grow and celebrating their success along with them.
Well, if any of our listeners want to jump on the Rolling Suds speedboat and learn more about franchising with Rolling Suds, please reach out to me at mintfranchiseconsultants.com. JT, do you have any parting words for our listeners today?
One thing I've noticed, Laura, lately is that age doesn't need to be the barrier that it used to be before. And I would just tell people, we've got a lot of folks that are coming in that are 25 years old and decided, right out of college that they weren't going to go down the traditional route, and they were going to jump in and get an SBA loan, or maybe their parents, help provide a little bit of capital to doing this. But you don't have to go through 25 years of Excel spreadsheets and corporate Zoom meetings until you feel like you've got enough experience to go do this. And I've seen that in my own family. My nephew and my stepbrother were two of the youngest franchisees that I put in business, and they've never worked for anybody a day in their life except for themselves, and it's been very fulfilling. And so I see a lot of youth coming into franchising, which is really exciting for me. And I guess I would say, there's the old adage, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. And so whether, you are that person that's been in corporate America and you've got 15 more years till retirement, it's not too late. You can jump in and go, but you also don't have to wait and do that. There's plenty of space in our business and many others for the youth to get in and build a franchise business at a very young age and continue to grow there too. So it's really a great opportunity for people from all walks of life. And I would encourage you, if you have that itch and that desire to be building your own business, to just jump in and investigate it and see if it's right for you.
Thanks for that reminder that it's never too late or too early to start planting that seed. And if it's not today that you water and grow that seed through investing in a franchise, at least you're starting to think about it and plan for it financially, as well as prepare for your family. My nephew just turned 25, and he's looking at franchising as a path to not having to work for somebody else, because he really doesn't like those old folks that are telling him what to do, because he thinks better, differently, faster. So, but I do remind him that in franchising, you do have to know how to follow a system, and you have to, you can still be a big idea person, but you have to vet some of those big ideas through the system to make sure that it aligns with the goals that everybody's trying to achieve with that franchise.
100%. Yeah, I tell people that we're never really looking for entrepreneurs. We're looking for people with an entrepreneur mentality, meaning I feel like true entrepreneurs, like him or love him, Elon Musk or somebody like that, they're always breaking things and trying to find new solutions. So that's not really what a franchisee needs to be doing. You really just need to get in and say, I'm going to run this myself, and I'm going to take responsibility for the successes and the failures that this business has, but I'm going to follow it. I'm going to follow the blueprint that the franchisee's done, because that's what I'm paying for. That's what I'm enlisting in, is a proven roadmap. And if you can do that and then have that entrepreneurial, get up and go that comes along with it, I think that's the key for franchise success, in my opinion.
Yes, well, I always tell my candidates that those royalties are some of the best money that you could ever spend, because they're investing in the innovation, the support systems, the growth of your business, right alongside that of the overarching franchise system.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, JT, for being on the Powered by Franchising podcast with me today. I look forward to continuing to work with you and your amazing team at Rolling Suds. And again, to any of our listeners interested in learning more about franchising with Rolling Suds or any of the other brands that we work with, please visit mintfranchiseconsultants.com.